My guest this evening is dancer choreographer Eugene Loring, who will be retiring from UCI on February 13th. Good evening.
Good evening, David.
I'd like to begin this interview by talking about your beginning, when you first got started in dance, so why not ask the obvious question? How did you get involved in dance?
Well, for one thing, I've always danced. They tell me that I could do ballroom work when I was just a little kid. And all through school, I performed in all kinds of plays and so on. But I wanted to be an actor, and I studied dance to be a better actor because I read about it somewhere and it seemed like a good idea. And then, because I'm short, and I was encouraged to dance, I went into dance rather than being a straight actor.
Mm-hmm. Did your parents influence you to go into the fine arts at all?
No, not
They
at all. My mother supported it. My father thought it was ridiculous.
Ridiculous. What did your parents do?
Well, my father originally he trained boxers, and also he was a saloon keeper. And my mother, of course, was just a housewife.
Mm-hmm. So what made you joined the Wisconsin Players? I believe was the first group that you joined, a small group. Mm-hmm. And how did you get involved into joining that?
Well, it was the only theater group in Milwaukee, and it seemed, if I wanted to be an actor and work at it, that seemed to be the place to go. So I went there and became a member.
I was reading somewhere that you thought that you were one of the only male dancers in Milwaukee at some time? One of the few male ballet dancers?
That's true. As a matter of fact, when I went to a dance school, Claudia Druschke's school, I wanted to study ballet, but she wouldn't let me study ballet. She said that's not for men, and it made me study tap. But the second year, I prevailed upon her to let me study ballet.
Oh, you were one of the few men that really wanted to.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then, so after Milwaukee, you eventually made the trip out to New York, like I guess most dancers that want to become famous do. So when did you decide that the dancing was going to be your career and that New York was the place to go?
Well, the Wisconsin Players did a production where there were dances in the production, and the director made me choreograph them. I'd hate to see them now. But some people from New York were in the audience. And they came backstage and said, "We think you have talent, but you better get to New York and do it seriously." And they encouraged me to go to New York.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that...
Gave me a letter of introduction to Lincoln Kirstein, who was the mentor, and still is, the mentor of the New York City Ballet.
And he played a rather important part in your dancing career, didn't he?
Oh, very important.
Is he the one that had the Ballet Caravan? Is that him?
Ballet Caravan. He started the Ballet Caravan.
Right. And which will follow right into my next question, which would be the first piece that you choreographed, I believe, was for the Ballet Caravan, wasn't it?
Yes.
And what was that called?
Harlequin for President.
What was it about?
Well, it was a satire on the United States elections, but done in terms of the Commedia dell'arte.
Mm-hmm. What kind of research did you do to choreograph?
Well, I did a lot of research about the Commedia. The Italian Commedia.
Mm-hmm. But the first piece that you, I guess, got international acclaim for was Billy the Kid, which opened October 16th, 1938 at the Chicago Opera House.
That's right.
Now, was this piece choreographed in New York or Chicago?
New York.
This was choreographed in New York?
Yes. And
what mid it open in Chicago instead of New York?
Well, we went on tour.
Oh, I see.
And that was our first date.
Your first date?
Mm-hmm.
How did the Billy the Kid project come about at the Ballet Caravan?
Well, Lincoln Kirstein, is a very gruff man. You would think sometimes that he doesn't like you. Mm-hmm. And one day he thrust a book at me called The Life and Times of Billy the Kid by Walter Noble Burns. And he said, "Here, see if you can make a ballet out of it." And so I read it and decided that we could make a ballet out of it. But it would have to be done in like children, where guns, and it's about the West and horses and guns and card playing and that sort of thing. you have to pretend that they're there. And I wasn't sure that that would work with mature audiences. And then I went to see a performance of Our Town, and Thornton Wilder proved to me that you could. So I went ahead.
And how long did it take you to stage it? This being your second or third major piece, a couple of months?
No, as a matter of fact, I did it very quickly. Once I had the music from Aaron Copland, as a matter of fact, it only took me 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yes.
My goodness.
Of course, I did a lot of homework.
Right.
I
I'm
planned
sure you
it.
did.
I planned it. I'm the kind of choreographer that plans things before the rehearsal.
One thing I'm interested in, when you choreograph a piece like Billy the Kid, do you write it all out first and then present it to the dancers, or is it something that you write down as you're working with them?
I make notes and then teach it to the dancers.
Mm-hmm. Who was your first Billy?
Myself.
Yourself?
Yes.
So you choreographed it in 2 weeks, and you're your first Billy.
Yes.
Very good. How long did you have the title role?
About 4 years.
Really?
Yes.
Did you plan it that way? Was that the way that it was arranged with Lincoln Kirstein?
Yes, see, because Billy was a short man, and I'm short, and so
Right.
it seemed logical for me to do it.
What are some of the experiences that you went through while choreographing this production? I've heard that you like to search things out so that the dance can be better and stuff. Did you?
Oh, I did a lot of research about the West, because I had never been west of the Mississippi when I did Billy.
And you probably would have to know about that, wouldn't you?
Yes, well, I read a lot of books about the West, and saw a lot of movies.
Became an avid John Wayne fan, I'm sure, right?
Yes, yes.
So after you completed doing Billy the Kid, because it's still being done now, who
Yeah.
are some of the other men that have played the role?
Oh, Johnny Creaser, Michael Kidd, Danny Levins, Elliot Feld, and the Australian boy who is now a soloist with the American Ballet Theatre, Danilo Rodajkovic. And he's very good, too.
Now, before we started, you were saying that you are present when these new pieces are being choreographed. So did you have to travel around to all the different companies that were doing it?
Yes.
Do they?
If they want the ballet, I insist upon staging it for them, because I've seen versions that have been staged by other people, and it just doesn't work. They
Right.
just don't understand it.
Does it still take you 2 weeks to do it, or?
Now
have to allow a little more time?
it takes 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Minimum of 4 weeks with 5 hours a day rehearsal.
Speaking of times, because I'm not a ballet dancer myself, how long does the average ballet take to choreograph? Would you?
Oh, it depends on the choreographer. Some choreographers are very fast, some are very slow.
Are they?
Yes. That has nothing to do with the talent. It's just a different process
Right.
that one goes through.
Right.
For example, Anthony Tudor is one of the greatest choreographers. He's very slow.
Mm-hmm.
And but that doesn't matter. I mean, he's a master at it. So.
Right. Now, the big thing with Billy the Kid, aside from it being a very popular piece, was that in 1962 it was performed at the White House under the Kennedy administration.
Yeah.
And how did this performance happen to come about? And then what was your reaction to the fame that it probably brought you? Because being performed at the White House, I'm sure that press was there and everything. So.
Oh, yes.
How did that come about?
Well, I don't really know. As a matter of fact, the American Ballet Theatre was doing Billy, and I went to New York to visit, and then I stayed in a hotel, and with the morning coffee, they brought a newspaper with the coffee, and there it was on the front page.
So you found out through the paper, huh?
Yes, and Lucia Chase then learned that I was in New York, and then asked me to come and rehearse them. And so I went with them to Washington, D.C.
How did President Kennedy like it? Was he pleased?
Oh, he was very pleased. And he saw the performance, and then after the performance, he said, I think that we should honor the creators of the ballet. And Aaron Copland and I were asked to stand and take our accolades.
Oh, how nice. So it's kind of a nice way for it. It kind of works its way up to the White House, which is pretty good.
Right.
Just one more thing. Now, the Oakland Ballet is going to be presenting Billy the Kid at your at the celebration that they're having for you next week, right?
Yeah.
Did you go to Oakland to work on this one also?
Oh, yes.
You flew to Oakland? See, I'm from Palo Alto, so we're almost,
Oh, yes.
pretty close to Oakland.
Yeah.
Okay, well, leaving Billy the Kid temporarily, the next big thing, so far as I could tell, was the American School of Dance came to be, which, correct me if I'm wrong, was it in Los Angeles that this opened? Or
Yes, it was Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how did you decide, because now you're back east, and how did you decide to come to the West Coast to open up this studio?
Well, I didn't come here to open up a studio. I came here at the, I was hired by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. I was a contract choreographer, and I was in Hollywood. And my experience in auditioning dancers, you know, choreographers don't really like to audition people because it's so sad. For example, when I did Silk Stockings in New York, I auditioned 700 people to get 13.
Oh, my goodness.
And it always has made me very unhappy that so many people are ill-equipped for a job they want. And so I decided to start a school that really provided a thorough training in dance. And that's why I started.
And a thorough training in dance sounds good. What are the types of dance that you taught? And also, now, were you here when it opened, or were you still back?
Yes.
You were here. So were you the only instructor that taught, or did you have to, like, audition instructors, or how did that?
Well, I started alone. I had an assistant, Margaret Westberg, and then we gradually, as we grew, hired other people, and they always auditioned.
What were the types of dance?
All kinds.
All kinds?
Absolutely, you know, ballet, modern, which we call freestyle, and jazz, all forms of ethnic dance, and then the dance academics like music, choreography, and notation, you know.
Were you trained in all of that?
No.
You weren't? So you sort of learned on the road, kind of?
Yes.
Did Mr. Kirstein help you to learn some of that?
No. Yeah, that was my own volition.
Your own volition? So with the famous studio, I'm sure that some of your dancers are now in the public limelight, or were. Who are a couple of them?
Well, Leland Palmer, who has played Gwen Verdon in All That Jazz, and I can't think of his name. He got a Tony for West Side Story.
Oh boy, Tony.
Yeah, I can't think of his name at the moment.
He did the original.
Oh, George Chakiris.
George Chakiris.
Yes, those are a couple of people.
Well, that's good. Now, I read that there was some controversy about the way that you taught freestyle. What was that?
Well, you see, in most schools, you take former techniques like Martha Graham technique, or Jose Limon, or Doris Humphrey and Charles Weidman, and I think that there should be a technique that embraces every possible kind of movement, so that the body is trained for any eventuality, for any desire, anything you want to do. And so I called it freestyle instead of modern.
Now, there is a word that I can't say, and we discussed the word before,
kinesiography.
Kinesiography, which is something that you invented.
Well,
what is that?
Yeah, it's a form of notation to write down dances. And there are a few systems, and some of them very complicated, and I felt there should be a much simpler way. And
so you invented a simple system with a difficult word, right?
Yes.
Good. What became of the studio? Is it still happening?
No, I sold it when... See, I was trying to do... I ran the department here that I was chair of dance, and I was also running the school in Hollywood, and the department here grew so much that I had to make a decision of one or the other, and I decided to come down here.
I'd like to next talk about a subject that interests me because I am sort of a celebrity fiend at heart, and that is your work with Fred Astaire. You choreographed a couple of his movies.
Three of them.
3 of his films. And when did you first work with him? Was this when you came out as a contract to MGM?
It was my second choreographic job at Metro, and for a picture Yolande and the Thief, and I was rather in awe of working with a man that well known, and here I am virtually not very well known, and it was a real challenge.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, well, did you find that you had to conform to his capabilities?
Oh, yes, of course. One always does that with a star.
Right.
You have to think in terms of how they would look. But he showed me 6 hours of edited film of everything he had done to that point in pictures. And we had long talks. And
was he easy to work with? I've heard rumors that he can be difficult sometimes.
He can be difficult, but who cares? It's the end result that counts. He's like a Swiss watchmaker. he rehearses and rehearses and rehearses over and over and over, very minute detail. But that's what makes it possible to be so free when the cameras start going.
Right. Who are some other hoofers, as we call them, right, in the business?
I have not worked with any other hoofers.
You haven't worked with any of the hoofers?
No, I know Gene Kelly very well. We're very good friends, but I've never actually worked. He does his own choreography. But other dancers are, Sid Charisse, Audrey Hepburn, and so on.
Do you have any interesting Hollywood stories that or anything
don't
exciting?
Get me started, or you'll have to go on for hours.
Well, you can tell us one. I've talked with some of your students, and they've told me this is a question I must ask you because you have some funny ones.
Well, I can't think of anything right now.
Let's see. They were telling me about one in particular with Mr. Stair, which I don't seem to recall.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm sure you have lots of them, right? We'll wait for your autobiography to come out.
Yes, and that's what I'm going to do now.
Are you going to write a book?
Oh,
great. You have to.
Absolutely.
Probably the public demands it, I'm sure. Now, you choreographed movies, but you were also in films. Why not talk about a couple of the films that you were in?
Well, I didn't intend to be in films. It was just quite by accident.
How was it?
For example, the Clarence Brown, the director, saw me auditioning dancers, and then he asked me if I would play a part in National Velvet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did a scene in National Velvet with Elizabeth Taylor and Mickey Rooney.
And
then everything I've ever done in pictures happened by chance.
Next, I see that it was you portrayed Gene, the dance director, in the Torch Song. How did that?
With Joan Crawford.
Joan Crawford. And then the many films that you choreographed were Yolanda and the Thief. The Ziegfeld Follies, is that a you choreographed all of it, or was that a compilation of some of his films?
It was a compilation of many different works.
And The Thrill of Brazil, what?
Thrill of Brazil with Ann Miller, yes.
The Toast of New Orleans.
Well, but Funny Face, Silk Stocking, Toast of New Orleans, 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T.
You choreographed that?
Yes.
The whole piano sequence was
Yes.
yours? I saw that movie when I went to camp back in like '70. I was always in awe. That was very
Yes, including the Dungeon Ballet. Do you remember that one?
from that film.
Yeah, where all the musicians are in the fourth basement dungeon.
Oh yeah. But the thing it was the piano. There's a whole thing with all the pianos, if I recall, right?
Yeah.
They're all together or something like that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 500 children playing it.
Exactly. That's probably what we were all children ourselves. I studied piano for a little bit, and if I had that many pianos, maybe I would have been able to get it. Now the next big step is, besides the American School of Dance, was you became the head of the UCI dance department.
Yeah.
Correct? You founded it, didn't you?
Yes, I started the department here.
Did you just thought UC Irvine had to have a department, or
No, it happened this way. The dean, Dr. Clayton Garrison, came to the school. He wanted to do a production of I can't it slips my mind. But anyway, he wanted help, and I arranged for one of my teachers to help him choreograph a show, The Boyfriend, that's what it was, at Riverside when he was in the drama department there. And then after that, he came and studied at my school in Hollywood.
Oh.
And because he was older than most students, I was concerned that he was getting what he needed. So we had long talks, and he saw the school in operation. So when he came to this, when we started planning UCI, he asked me if I would be interested in coming down and starting the department. And so the curriculum that we have here was at the American School of Dance in Hollywood. That's how that happened.
Did you set any goals for the UCI dance department? Did you set like a 10-year goal to get something out of the department?
No, we didn't. Well, we talked about it, but we didn't. We just gradually grew and grew and grew until now. When I first started here, I was the only teacher, and we had 4 classes a week and 8 dance majors.
And the new complex that we have now wasn't in existence,
No.
was it?
No, we had Crawford Hall, period.
Crawford Hall, period.
Yes. And now, we have something like 9 full-time people and 6 part-time people and 12 teaching assistants.
And many, many students.
And almost 200 dance majors. And
you probably know this, but one thing that impresses me is that I'm in one of the freestyle classes here, and a lot of the students aren't even drama or dance majors. They're, from other fields that just want to do the exercise. Yeah. It says someplace that you inspire your dancers to become professionals. Do you? How do you do that? Do you tell them it's like a tough world, or it's an easy, or you have to work hard?
I scare them.
You scare them.
I scare them because I tell them, it is the hardest profession in the whole world, and very competitive, and you have to love it in order to succeed in it, because it's the poorest paying job in the world.
A dancer.
Yes.
Have you seen a significant growth in the UCI dance program? And what would the biggest be?
It's mine. We have
curriculum, probably, huh?
Yeah, the curriculum. We have over 100 classes a week now, and we started with 4.
It's a big jump.
Yeah.
Well,
3 studios now.
3 studios.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're very nice.
And then we use other places for
like Crawford Hall. Still use that.
Yeah.
So that pretty much wraps it up in a thumbnail sketch, right? It's kind of what you've done. On Tuesday, February 10th, the tribute is being given in your honor. Actually, it's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Yeah.
Do you know any of the events are going to be? Any exciting things besides?
Well, there's a big reception before where a lot of my friends from not only from here but from New York are coming in.
Really? Oh boy. Maybe as a real
from
celebrity
other places, from Maryland and Chicago.
Is Mr. Astaire going to be here? Do you know?
I don't think so. I don't know. At least we haven't heard from him. He's been invited, but.
Now you and I were talking about this house, which I was in awe about. You're moving to New York City into, and I will say it the way your students said it, into a rubber house with glass windows. You explained to me that it's not all rubber. Pieces of it are.
It's covered with rubber.
It's covered with rubber.
Yeah, and instead of stucco or stone, it's covered with rubber, which will last a long time and is maintenance free, and you don't need further insulation and so on. And
since New York City is cold during the winter, do you plan on making trips out west to come to old UCI? And
it's funny. I was there at Christmas time between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I didn't mind the cold at all, and it was very cold. Christmas Eve, it was 10 below zero.
Well, of course, you were born back in that area also, so if I were to go back there, I would die for sure. Yeah. And you're going to have a studio attached to the house.
Yes.
That you can work
Actually,
with.
the house is not in the city. The house is 90 miles north of the city, and it's in the country.
So what are your future plans, then, now that you're leaving?
Well, I don't know exactly. I know I'm going to write because I've been urged to do it for a long time, and I just haven't had the time for it. Now I will, but that doesn't mean I'll stop teaching, choreographing. I'm still energetic and nimble.
Great. You got the title Professor Emeritus, right? That means what does that? That means that you've stopped teaching on a full-time basis or something?
Yes, it's supposed to mean that. You're a special professor. But I've been teaching more.
That's what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you do you keep that title? So you can probably still come back if you want to and do that, right?
Yeah, I'll probably come back once in a while.
Well, this has been a very inspiring, I've wanted to talk to you for a long time, interview, and I thank you very much for being here.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
You've been listening to choreographer Eugene Loring, former head of the UC Irvine Dance Department on 89.9 FM KUCI in Irvine. That's true, you have, and I wish to thank Mr. Loring very much for doing that interview. He is in New York City now, and I suppose he's enjoying himself with whatever he's doing. A couple of weeks ago, the 10th, 11th, and 12th of February, the Oakland Ballet had this big, huge celebration for him, and it was really nice. They did Billy the Kid, and they presented him with his original Billy the Kid shoes at the very end of the whatever you call it, the dance, which is really nice. It's 8:25 here at KUCI in Irvine.